So I've been to a lot of gigs this year, and as I've started up this channel talking about gigs, vlogging gigs, reviewing gigs, I thought why not, when I've only got one gig left of this year, and that is Slipknot next month. Why not review them, do my top 5. I was going to do top 10, but there's a lot of shitters in there. So it's going to be a top 5, and we're going to discuss them, talk about how it was, where it was, how it went, and will I see them again? So enjoy. Before I get into it, a couple of honourable mentions. Maybe, there was a support band that wasn't as good, or the set list wasn't great, or the venue wasn't great, or little reasons that they haven't made it into the top 5, or it's just because the top 5 was so good. First honourable mention is Mammoth Wolfgang Van Halen. I didn't see their headline tour. I saw them supporting Slash back in, I want to say March or April time. At the OVO Wembley. So that's why it isn't in the top 5, because it wasn't actually his gig, and Slash, it was Slash and Miles Kennedy. And the reason that isn't in the top 5, because I actually thought it was a pretty boring gig. I enjoy Slash. I don't mind Miles Kennedy. I think he is a bit boring of a singer. And especially when it's with Slash, it's sort of just like an Axl Rose cover. So that's why, it wasn't the best gig overall. Especially just with OVO Wembley. It's a good venue, but sound sometimes doesn't hit perfectly, and it's also just a big tin shed. But Mammoth themselves, or himself, I don't know if it's a band or so. I mean, I honestly, I know like 3 of their songs, and I don't really listen to them because I'm not really into that sort of music, but they or he were incredible. I mean, I walked away from that venue, we all walked away from that venue saying that he was better than Slash on the night. Another one is the Pogues. I'm a massive Pogues fan, massive Shane MacGowan fan, and this was the Red Roses for Me tour back in maybe September time, it might have been. I've got no idea. But it was at the Hackney Empire. It was going to be at the Moth Club in Hackney, but the venue got upgraded because of the ticket sales. It was curated by Spider Stacey, the tin whistle player from the Pogues, and there was all sorts of guests. There was, I can't remember her name, from Lambrini Girls, on the bass. I think she was there the entire night, and there were a bunch of other guests. And because the Pogues mean so much to me, I'm seeing them again next year on their first actual tour, because this wasn't really like the Pogues. It was Red Roses for Me by the Pogues. But, next year they're they're back together now, apparently, without Shane. And they are touring. I will be seeing them at the Apollo. So, the reason they're not in the actual top 5 is because it was just the Red Roses for Me album, and it's not my favourite album of the Pogues, and it was just from start to finish. So there was no, added songs onto there. But yeah, that was a really good gig. I did enjoy that, and it's more sentimental. Now we've got 2 together just because they're great bands and a great solo person. That's Judas Priest and Alice Cooper. Judas Priest was at the OVO Wembley, supported by Saxon and Uriah Heep, and Alice Cooper was at the Apollo, supported by Glenn Matlock. The reason they don't make it into the top 5 is purely for the reason that the top 5 is fucking incredible, and they just haven't gotten in there, and there's nothing really to describe it. Judas Priest is Judas Priest, and Alice Cooper is Alice Cooper. At number 5, we have got AC/DC at Wembley Stadium. They're not higher, even though it's probably the best band that I've seen this year in terms of the music, and I mean, it's AC/DC. It will probably be the best band I'll ever see in my life. The reason they're not higher is because Brian Johnson can't really sing anymore. Angus Young is still top of his game and is moving about like he's a 13-year-old child somehow. Obviously, being at Wembley, you're not the closest to the band. The sound isn't ideal. It wasn't bad. It travelled quite well. We're quite deep into the crowd, so there was no problems with the sound or things like that I've heard on the internet. The only reason they're at 5 is because Brian Johnson, and also is it AC/DC, considering there's only 2, not even original members, just 2 members of what I would consider AC/DC members. But at the end of the day, they're playing AC/DC. Angus Young, on his own, has got them into 5th place. Number 4 is already a gig that I thought could be number 1 when I walked out of that venue. It's The Who at the Royal Albert Hall, supported by Squeeze. Only the second gig that I went to this year. Already halfway through the gig, I was thinking this could be the best one of the year. The set list was incredible. It was The Who with the orchestra, which they've been doing for the last few years. I know they did it at Brighton, some sort of cricket ground in Brighton last year that I, for some reason, didn't go to. The Who had like sections of there where the orchestra weren't playing. They had sections where they were, obviously. And overall, really good set. The only thing that was a bit weird about it is that maybe 2/3 into the gig, they had a good 15-minute drum solo, and I think maybe like an acoustic solo. And it was just a massive montage of like 9/11, and Maddie McCann was in there, and all like world horrific events. Don't really know what that's got to do with whatever Quadrophenia song they were playing, but there you are. Number 3 is a band that's out of everyone else's league on this list because they're still up and coming, and obviously they've got the potential to go who knows where, and that is Wonder Horse. A band that before this, I'd only ever really thought about them supporting Fontaines DC last year, and I'd never really listened to them. I know their new album came out, and I gave that a go, loved it, went back to the first album, loved that even more, so I decided to go see them at Brixton Academy, and Christ, they were incredible. Not metal, not really even sort of heavy rock, and I know that's not really what the channel's about or what this list sort of is shaping up to be like, especially with the top 2, but they were superb. If you've not seen Wonder Horse and you're into that sort of softer music, definitely check them out. At least listen to their first album. Considering they've only been around for like 3 years before that, and they've only got 2 albums and maybe a handful of singles that aren't on the records, the set list was short. The set list was like an hour and 15 minutes. You know them gigs where you're there and you're loving every song and you're holding on to every song, that it goes by and it feels like it's been 5 minutes? Because they haven't got that many songs, they give it their all, every single track. And yeah, they were just unbelievable. Number 2 is one that I only covered 2 weeks ago because it's a really, really recent one, and that is Sepultura. On their farewell tour at the Apollo. I did a review for that gig, so I'll put it up, whatever corner it comes up on, a more detailed insight on that video for the gig, because I'm not going to be going over every little thing. It was just mind-blowing. Derek Green, obviously. Oh, to be fair, before going into the gig, I loved Sepultura, and I knew basically all the songs they played. And I liked the Derek Green era of Sepultura. Since then, I've sort of went down a massive rabbit hole of the Cavalera Brothers and the Cavalera Conspiracy and Soulfly and all these side projects, and I've sort of came to terms with Derek Green has got absolutely nothing on Max. But still, at the time as well, went with a mate that didn't really like heavy metal, and both of us went away shell-shocked by how good and loud they were. Probably not the last time I'll see them, because this isn't a farewell tour for Sepultura, it's a Derek Green farewell tour. I guarantee you, in 2 years' time, they're back with the Cavalera Brothers. Number 1, a gig that when I was there, I knew, forget I said this about The Who, forget I probably said it about other gigs, I knew that this was going to be the best gig that I've seen this year, and that was Scorpions at Wembley. I think one of the reasons that this just stood out so much to any other gig that I've been to is we had planned to leave 45 minutes into the set, so missing basically an hour, because it was one where we didn't really listen to them a lot leading up because it just didn't really click with us. We just went to the gig because we had the tickets, and the first 5 songs grabbed me so much. I was like, I cannot leave early, and it was just banger after banger. This doesn't happen often, and especially in metal where you've sort of got to get to know a few songs, or you've got to listen to a song a few times and you sort of grow it and you sort of make a connection to it. Every single song, I hadn't heard a few of them, and instantly it just felt like I loved the song the first time hearing it. And I've not experienced that at a lot of gigs, and Scorpions was one that I'll remember forever. It's a great example of, even if you don't know the band great, but you just, you've got a feeling, go to the gig. It might be your next fascination, because for the next 2 months, it's all I listen to. But there you are, top 5. Go check out all the bands that I've mentioned. Go check out my other videos. Subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.